If you've been engrossing yourself in telly in recent years, it's easy to think of murder mysteries as gritty, murky pieces of drama that have stewed up such dark tropes that you'd be forgiven for wanting to douse yourself in hard liquor just to escape the escapism. But in 2020, a Picross puzzler has been released that wants to take us back to an era where police procedurals could handle their tones from emotional to colourful, and that love letter to the era is Murder by Numbers. Murder by Numbers has you uncovering clues and solving crimes in the star-studded backdrop of 90s LA, swapping dark detective long coats with trendier garbs, noir aesthetics for colourful glamour, and double bourbons with cocktails. Can't I just prefer the bourbon, to be honest? Oh, I'll have an old-fashioned. The game stars Honor, a TV star kicked out of her career as a sideline sidekick and into the world of sleuthing, and Scout, a floating amnesiac that makes up for their lack of RAM with the latest in clue-detecting tech, at least for this alternate timeline. The two are not so much chucked into the deep end of sleuthing as much as they are jettisoned into deep space to question the stars of LA, with the twosome constantly crossing paths with death like an over-obsessed fan, forcing them to figure out why some of the lifestyles of the rich and famous have become the lifestyles of their status is irrelevant, they're dead. Now those who have dabbled in enough whodunits to acquire quite the gummy gumshoe may have no trouble sticking to suspicious individuals in the game's 4 cases, to the point where they might actually be ahead of the duo themselves. Investigations take place over this graphic novel format, with players chiming in their theories with unfailable multiple choice scenes. But just because you may already be cuffing the guilty party in your imagination before the characters even start contemplating questioning them, you won't have all the pieces you need to bring them down. You may be right about that one case, but you don't know how it fits together in the game's bigger conspiracy, and you haven't actually done the bulk of actual police work, finding evidence via Picross puzzles. Picross has you trying to complete pictures by colouring squares in a grid. Numbers on each column and row clue you in on how many squares are consecutively coloured in before breaking to the next. Once everything is pieced together, the squares form a picture, or in this case, a clue. And it doesn't matter how smart you are, in some cases, you can't comprehend what these will be in their opening steps.
Oh, okay.
And this is where professional scanner Scout comes in, locating evidence swiftly but still retaining that retro tech flair that even cache converters can see value in, interpreting the incriminating data in this blocky state before Honor comes in to teach them how the world works like a toddler. But, actually endearing. A bulk of your investigation will be focused on putting these all together to form clues that help build your case. And whilst other murder mysteries may jam in excessively comprehensive tools to sleuth your way around, Murder by Numbers has Picross, and honestly, it works perfectly in making you feel like a pro tackling cases. In some crime serials, it's become such an unprofessional trope for the cops to drag in the first person they can to close the case in time for tea, so much so it's ripe for parody. I mean, come on, detective, if they really did it, how come we got 8 more episodes of this season left to go? The doy! And Honor does do this a couple of times herself, but that's fine. Her career is centered around TV tropes for years, so it's easy to see why she falls for these traps, and Scout's entertaining and understandable naivety makes it clear why they're willing to follow along with it. Their job is to evolve into the sharp detective duo the city needs. Your job is to do the actual deduction. When an investigation starts, you can't just pin the murder on the likelier suspects due to their emotions and call it a day. In reality, you need to look at all the angles methodically, fill in the gaps with any clues that align outside of coincidences, and more importantly, eliminate the innocent from your investigation to find those truly integral to the case that'll help you see the complete picture. Like literally what you do in Picross. It's impressive to see these puzzles, which could have so easily been written off as gimmicks shimmied into a game that didn't need them, actually slot in and enhance it. Whilst I enjoyed the graphic novel segments for their writing, they left me hungry for some actual deduction, which the puzzles gave me in so many spades it was likely behind burying the bodies the suspects provided. Compare this to another game that attempts to extend logic and deduction beyond the traditional tropes games have taken to find out who done it. Beyond Baker Street. Here, each of you are detectives working cooperatively and holding your own hand of evidence cards that need to be played to solve cases. Each lead in a case has a number the team has to hit by playing evidence to reach that number perfectly, thereby closing it and moving on to the next. Go over that number and it disappears. Play a card of the wrong colour and it makes the lead harder to prove. However, you hold your hand of evidence outwards and have to rely on your team to tell you what you're holding with limited information, only referring to the quantity of cards that have a specific number or colour. You're racing to try and solve the case before Sherlock beats you to it, so each card plays feels like a gamble if you don't have everything you need to go on. This opens up a lovely, if slightly quiet process of deduction as your brain rattles every time someone points at your cards. Is there a reason why they're pointing at my two blues over anyone else's? Should I gamble and play one of them, even though I don't know the numbers? Or wait a turn to get more info, risking Sherlock beating us but making our case airtight? It understands the core of Sherlock stories and uses that to drive the gameplay in ways you wouldn't really expect from a game like this, and I genuinely love it. But the more you start to break it down, thematically, the less sense it begins to make. I'm not a DI, but do the police all just sit in a room, silent, nudging each other when they see a piece of evidence that somebody else should really be looking into, but concealing it from them the whole time? Are all murder investigations treated like weird, awkward double dates where a partner will passive-aggressively suggest to their significant other what they really should be ordering? Again, I don't work for the police, okay? I'm just saying. With Murder by Numbers, its primary interactivity is its strongest aspect, not only due to the fact that it allows you to bond with the characters by readapting their situations in a simpler format, but in smoothing over what some might consider its weak points to ensure you don't feel shortchanged. To be fair though, it isn't the first game to take these puzzles and merge them with a totally different type of game. PictoQuest takes the piecing together of pictures into the realm of RPGs. Players have to put together mystical mathematical musings whilst battling off hordes of monsters. Correctly identified rows and columns slash away at beasts and resets their attack counters to ensure they're kept at bay, but make a mistake and you're an easy target for an early thwack. It's a race against time, or HP bars, where mistakes can cost you your life, and it's good. But honestly, Picross is such a satisfying little activity, it's difficult for anything including it to be considered less than so-so, and the marriage between puzzles and genre here is a little bit more dysfunctional. Not divorce-worthy, just as soon as I turn 16, I'm out of here. Like, I get that you're trying to think fast in a fight, but it's a bit of a stretch to say Picross is the ideal way of representing finding opportunities to strike. There's a bit of disconnect in you taking your time to deal damage and also trying to think rapidly because take too long and you'll be numbered to death. It's taken an element from some Picross games, timing players to get through puzzles as swiftly as possible, and amped it up. But those are usually optional elements the less competitive can ignore, not the core of the game made compulsory. It feels like it's targeting a certain kind of Picross player that needs a bit of stress from their puzzling, and for that, PictoQuest passes with its genre combo, but Murder by Numbers flourishes. Its Picross puzzles feel like a more welcoming and accepting way of landing you into all aspects of its world. They're simple yet challenging logical dilemmas, where if something goes wrong, there's a way to recover from your errors, and with the investigations, well, there isn't a yellow pages of names to remember or a network of connection that involves 50 balls of string to visualise. It's inviting to newcomers of either genre without being patronising. The cases are simple to follow and the puzzles are accommodating with their optional tools to aid, but the overarching mystery is intriguing, and the puzzles challenging enough to make you feel like you're smart enough to at the very least be a PI's PA. And with the gameplay strengthening that bond between you and the two characters, the first steps in professional sleuthing with honour and the interpretation of clues with Scout, I'd recommend this over dedicated Picross games for newcomers, perhaps then recommending moving on to the likes of Picross S or even PictoQuest if it becomes something someone needs more of upon completion, and trust me, that is a danger. It's fitting that Murder by Numbers is about the oddest of odd couples, because its combo of mechanics and setting create a wonderfully peculiar concoction that still feels strangely comforting, merging coffee book puzzles with graphic novel elements enhancing the character's plight, but also telling a funny story with moments of genuine levity, and is the pivotal piece of evidence that proves that if you put thought into the mechanics and love the genres you're riffing off, when you spin them into a genre no one could ever see coming, you can make something truly special that works on every level.